Hey gang, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew. As the title of the video suggests, today I am going to be talking about the Rules Encyclopedia. I bought this as an original version, bought back in 1991 when it came out. I told the story of how I came to play this in another video. I guess I could put a link up. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. A friend of mine wanted to play what we call a solo campaign. Some people say duet, the two of us. So it's important that another player joined us. So even though I've played this quite extensively over 5 years, once a month, it was always with one or two people. But it also helped us learn the game because we in those days to make a party, we'd create NPCs and the players would run them, or sometimes I would run them depending on the situation. So you did run all the different classes because we wanted to have balanced parties. I had said in my community tab that I was looking into other systems. Even though my channel is system agnostic, I'm playing 5e. I'm now playing a Pathfinder campaign, and this started the whole OGL controversy, but also just interest in this. I've been playing some other Dungeon Crawl classics. I played a couple times at convention. I'm going to be playing at GaryCon coming up next week. And I just thought, I want to look into some of these other systems. There are limitations and problems with 5e. If you've played it, you're all familiar with it. But getting into Pathfinder, I want to do some other systems. The reason I just picked the Rules Cyclopedia was I had played it. It is kind of the BECMI system, if that's how you say it. I'm not sure. The Molde, or I don't know the different names. Holmes Edition, all this stuff. I never played those. As I said, we just wanted a system. I went to game stores. I bought this book, and my friend, I said, look at this. We didn't want to go to the AD&D route. We didn't want to learn a whole new thing. For years, we played this whole homebrewed thing from the books, the box sets, and stuff. So we got into this system. I wanted to go back and look at it. This is kind of this basic system, because the thing about it is, what I want to do for this video is show you how to start off. Just get into the system, get some characters going, know the basics. Don't worry about the high-level stuff or the optional stuff. Any of that stuff, just get in there and set up some encounters and play. Now, this book was designed for people that were already familiar with D&D. Unlike the original booklets that came in the box that had much more explanatory sections on how to go into a dungeon, how to actually play the game. This, as you'll see, assumes you already know that. So I'm going to dive into the book right now. And the one thing about Rules Cyclopedia, I had this original copy, I guess for a while on eBay. It was 100 or 150. I don't know what it was. Well, now on DriveThruRPG, you can get a soft cover for like $25, a hardcover, it's all print on demand for $30. So you can actually get this, and it is a complete system. It has all the characters, the combat system, it has the spells, and then it has the monsters and ideas for running. It even has this, the original Mistar or Grey, I can't remember what set. I never used it, but it has kind of a campaign setting that you can use. So there is a sense that you could just dive in and say, I want to try what, the OSR experience or what it really was, as opposed to the more modern ones that have, probably fixed some of the issues that I'm going to point out in this system. But you could, if you're interested, play it, and it is much simpler, as you'll see, in many ways. So you have this front cover, and as I said, here's the table of contents, and then you go to the introduction, what is role-playing, and again, very simple. This is, you should know more than this in terms of playing this game, and then we basically go to character creation. So we'll zoom up here, and it gives you this, the steps to creating character. Roll the ability scores, choose a character class, then adjust them, right? Because once you decide, as we'll see, not much adjustment, but there is a little bit here. Then you roll for your hit points, you roll for money, and then you buy equipment. Again, if you don't know anything about playing D&D, you've never done this before, buy equipment. What equipment, right? You don't know about dungeon crawls. You don't know about going out into the wilderness. So this is something, it's assuming you know that. You determine other numbers and rolls in terms of figuring out what let's say you're buying a sword as opposed to a mace or something like that. You figure those all out. Adjustments for ability scores, again, because strength will add to hit, dexterity, ranged weapons, this sort of thing, charisma to, morale and that kind of stuff. Alignment, as we'll see, there's only 3, and then name, height, and weight, and then earn experience. What does that mean? That means run the game, right? All right, so this is a thing when you're rolling dice in the old school. We just rolled for strength, intelligence, wisdom, dex, con, and in that order. We just rolled them. You got what you wanted. And as we'll see, there is an adjustment thing here. This is where some luck comes in. because if you roll poorly, especially on really poorly, it can really make your character worthless. Not worthless. Thing was, we had 5 intelligence characters or 3 strength characters, and we would just run them, and it was sort of humorous. And then as time went by, we home ruled this, and we would say, if you rolled a 9 or less, it was just a 9. And so you didn't get to roll again. You rolled a 3, it was a 9. You rolled an 8, it was a 9. Whatever. And you could adjust that and say, oh, I'll go 6 through 8, make it a little bit of a penalty. But 3s and 5s, and it just hurts your characters. Everyone else is playing, and they've got some great character. They rolled really well. You decide what you want to do. But in this system, it is what you get is what you get. So I'm going to roll. I'm going to use Fantasy Grounds, and I'm going to go in the order that they say. So I'm going to roll 3 dice. There's I got a 14. Nice roll right away. Actually, this is the thing about this. All right, and there's my first 8. 3 again. There's a 7. Oh, man. 3 again. 13, not bad. 3 again. 11. And 3 again. 8. So I got 2 good rolls and 2 good rolls, 1 average, 3 really bad. This is not a very good character, right? All right, so I'm going to go to the character sheet here. Notice this is a character record sheet taken right from the back of the book. You got your name and class, alignment, the Dungeon Master. Here are your abilities that we just rolled with their adjustments. Strength is attack damage. Intelligence, how many languages. Saving throw versus spells. That's really important. That wisdom. Dex for the missile attack and for AC. Hit points. Con gives you bonuses there and reactions. Right over here, your prime requisite. This makes a difference, 5 or 10%. Or if you for some reason picked a negative prime requisite, that would lower it. So then what is your prime requisite? What is the adjustment, 5 or 10% or negative? Then you have your totals. Here are your saves. These are determined by your class and your level, as we'll see, dwarves and elves. Again, it's an unfair system, the old school. Armor class, your hit points, how much damage you're taking. Here's your movement rates. We'll go into those when we cover movement. Here's the infamous or famous THAC0 system. Basically stands for to hit armor class 0. Technically, it should be THACZ, but THAC0 is easier. Here's all the equipment that you're going to buy. Also, they have encumbrance things based on your strength, how much you can carry. All the special skills, powers that you want to write down. Move silently for thieves or something. Infravision for dwarves and elves, that sort of thing. Here's all your treasure. And then other titles, and then here's all your characteristics. And that's it. That's the entire character sheet. This is why you can roll up a character very quickly, especially when you get experience, especially once you know about equipment. You can just say, because you get 3d6 times 10 is how much gold you start with. You then could have adventure packs, what you need, rope, torches, grappling hook, whatever, all the kind of stuff that you might need to dungeon delve. And you just say, that's how much it is. This is how much it costs. So you aren't going through and just writing this all down. You have a sense of that. All right, and here is the character sheet. I've got Durwood. I haven't decided yet on his class, alignment, anything else. I guess I've decided it's a he. It could be Derwina, I suppose. And then I put in the order that I wrote. 14 strength, 8 intelligence, 7 wisdom, 13 dex, 11 con, 8 charisma. So this looks like a fighter, right? You got a 14 strength, which adds to your, not only your prime requisite for experience, but for striking. And you've got dex, which will help in terms of missile fire and in terms of your armor class. Okay, so there are 7 basic character classes in D&D. 4 of which are human classes, and then they have demi-human, and explain why they are separate classes and races at the same time. This is a classic thing of the old system. Then you have 2 optional druid. You have to be a 9th level cleric to decide to be a druid, and then the mystic is optional as well. I'm going to talk about the 7 basic ones. Mystics we always found to be underpowered for what they were. We didn't care for the class. You may like it. You can look at it if you get the system. I'm just going to talk about the basic 7. So you have these 4 human classes, and the thing about the dwarfs and the dwarves and elves especially, they're much better than the human classes. The halfling has flavor to it. It's not as nice as the dwarf if you want to fight, and the elf especially in terms of magic and fighting. They have some adjustments to this, as we'll see. I don't think it really outweighs them. That's my opinion in terms of limitations on character class. And you notice here there are no requirements. The prime requisite is wisdom, strength, intelligence, dex for the dwarf strength. And then there are some requirements. This is supposed to limit your ability. So with you have the elf, strength, and intelligence both. And then you have to have an intelligence of 9, con of 9 for the dwarf. You have to have a dexterity of 9 for the halfling. And a constitution of 9. So there's 2 categories you must have in order to play a halfling. Okay, if we look at the character that I rolled, clearly I can't be an elf. I can be a dwarf because I have to have at least a 9 con, and I have a 14 strength, which will add in dex. So that's probably what I'm going to be. If we look back here, the halfling, dex 9 and con 9, no problem there. I could be a halfling as well. The only other question is, can I adjust my ability scores? If we look at this chart, okay, you can adjust 2 points to adjust your prime requisite score. So for me, it's strength. But I can't lower dexterity, con, or charisma. So I can only lower intelligence, strength, which is what I want to raise, and wisdom. Well, if I look at my character, and I can't go lower than 9. So if I look at my character, intelligence 8, wisdom 7, so there's no adjusting that I can do for this character. But a 14 strength, 13 dex with an 11 con, that's fine. In this system, that's fine. Then you have to roll your hit points. As you can see, this is just a classic, the cleric 1d6, fighter 1d8. Magic users and thieves, this is the issue with them. The 1d4 dice are very vulnerable. Dwarf 1d8, elf 1d6, and the halfling 1d6. So you just roll the dice, right? So this is always in the original system. Some people homebrewed this you could re-roll ones, but I am about to roll my this is like 5e. You got to roll this dice. So I'm going to come here. I am going to roll an 8-sided die. 5. Not bad. I will take that. All right, now we're going to come to buying equipment. And there's 2 issues here. The first I already mentioned, the fact, this is a cyclopedia, this is a reference document. They don't explain to you, like, what equipment should I buy or why should I buy this equipment and whatnot. You have to sort of know that. The second is you get into tracking weight and encumbrance. And this is another thing about the Rules Cyclopedia, that BX has a different system from those days. The box set, AD&D 1. It's up to some interpretation here. And they go 2 strains on this. When we first started playing this rule set, we used the encumbrance rules as we interpreted them. And then later on, especially, you started to get all sorts of money, so buying things was not a problem. But we had a general sense of how much you could carry to not restrict your movement and whatnot. The issues here are you can carry 10 times your strength in pounds. So my character's a 14 strength. He can carry 140 pounds. But you also have encumbrance rules. So you have the weight of something is based on its weight in coins. Each coin is 1/10 of a pound. So that means that 140 pounds, I can carry 1,400 coins or its equivalent in weight. Once I do that, if I go over that, my movement's halved. I have all sorts of attack penalties and saving through all sorts of penalties. But then they have the encumbrance rules themselves, which they list in encumbrance in terms of your movement, your normal movement when you're, say, exploring, your encounter movement, and your running. And if you're going to wear armor, for example, as I'm going to do as a dwarf, that's going to make me 1 level of encumbrance no matter what because of the way the chart works. And there's some confusion here. There are people that say you divide that encumbrance rating by 10 when they list it. I say that the encumbrance thing is different than the weight. You can have that argument. You can also say, I don't care about any of this. I'm not going to have this. And just decide informally that there's a limit, obviously, to how much a person could carry. But again, what we always did was we just said the weight in coins is valued in terms of that 140, 1,400 coin weight that you can carry without having that penalty. But the encumbrance is a different thing just because the chart's different in terms of how the movement rates are adjusted. So those encumbrance numbers are taken on their own. You can do that as you want. So here we are in Fantasy Grounds. I'm just going to use this. I'm going to roll 3d6 here. And here we go. And I have 150 gold pieces. Okay, that's what I'm going to start with. Nice roll there, right? And this is good because as a fighter, you want to have some money to buy armors, weapons, and all your stuff. So I have 150 gold. All right, and so I'm going to start, and as you'll see with the weapons table, I'm going to talk about combat in another video. This is just building a character, but the various weapons show their damage they do. As you can see, this varies from weapon to weapon. For ranged weapons, you also have a varying range on things. Throwing an axe versus, shooting a bow. And the cost in gold pieces and its encumbrance. So I'm going to get a battle axe, which is 7 gold. Let's see, I'll just put this little thing here. Clear this out. I'll say 7 plus. I'm going to get I'll get a light crossbow. That's 30. I'm going to take I'm just going to see with shield, because I also want to save up money. I've only spent 37. I'll take a dagger. That costs 3. I'm at 40. Maybe I'll just wait here, and then I'm going to go down to the armor chart. So here's our armor chart. I want to get plate mail. I want to get the best. The suit armor, not only is it unbelievably expensive, but it restricts your movement. So I'm going to take that at 60. So plus 60, that gives me 120 gold that I have spent. I'm going to get a shield as well, plus 10. So now I'm at 130, which gives me 20 gold to spend on the rest of my equipment. So I'm going to go to my equipment chart. All right, so I'm going to get here, I'm going to get I'll get a backpack at 5 gold. This encumbrance thing here means when it's empty. So when it's loaded, it weighs something else, but I'm just going to say plus 5. The clothes and everything, you are assumed to come with clothes. Those are extra. If you want to charge people for the clothes they wear, I just assume everyone has clothes. So let's see. Maybe I will take, do you want to have iron rations for a week? That's 15. That'll put me right at 150. I think I'll just take unpreserved rations plus 5. Now, they have a very high encumbrance rating, but whatever. Rope, 50 feet. So I'll just take rope, and that costs 1. I'm at 141. I don't need torches. I have infravision. I'll leave that to the human players. Stakes and a mallet. Those can be, do you treat those? I'm sorry, iron spike. You can get 12 spikes for 1 gold. I will take that, plus 1 iron spikes. And a hammer, if I want it, because I want to spike the doors, plus 2. I'm at 144. Let's see, anything else that I want? I have a backpack. Oh, and a water skin, another gold, plus 1. All right. And wolfsbane, I can't remember. I don't know what that is. So, and there you go. A week's worth of rations. I've got water. The encumbrance on this is 30. To remember that, what my various encumbrances. I still think I'm going to be okay on my encumbrance. We'll just have to see. All right, so there we go. So now we have Armor Class, classic of the old school box set. First to second edition and encyclopedia, descending armor class. That is the higher your armor class, the easier to hit. With no armor at all, it's 9. You go down from there. If you have a full suit of armor, the classic knight in shining armor, you're at 0. This is part of buying equipment with your up to 180 gold starting. You couldn't buy a suit of armor, and you wouldn't want to because of the restrictions on your movement. But plate mail was kind of the classic fighter armor. That was at 3. And then you had a shield, which took it to minus to 2. My character has a 13 dex. That is a plus 1, but actually subtracts. I know it's confusing as a plus 1 characteristic. So my character with plate and a shield and the armor class is going to be armor class 1. That is very durable, and I like it. And here we have attack rolls. I'll get into this when I go into the combat system, basically with a 14 strength. I have a +1 on my attack rolls. But you go across the chart. This is where we're going to use THAC-O, right? What you're going to write across here, if I go to my character sheet, right in here, I'm going to write across here. You do this because your rolls change at 1 to 3 level, 4 to 6, whatever it is, depending on your class, as you'll see, will change. And then you write these in pencil because you're going to change them as you go along. And the idea behind THAC-O is that you can easily, just look at it. We see what the monster or the NPC, whatever you're fighting, you see its armor class, you instantly know what you need to hit. You have all your adjustments worked in. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to calculate for this, or just put it on my chart, is my saving throws. And I'm going to go into this more. I'm going to cover it the next time. And when you look at these listings of the saving throws, you'll notice they're divided: death ray or poison, magic wands, right, as opposed to a spell, paralysis or turn to stone, dragon breath, and then rod, staff, or spell. Spell being the most common saving throw you're going to make. But notice they're divided and they're different. Very typical of these old systems where you had different ones for all sorts of things, and then you had different ones for the character classes. So let's look at this across. We're going to start at 1 to 4 and 5 to 8. Are you going to get to 9 through 12? Maybe in your campaign. Typically ours always, maybe we go into 9 to 12 at the end. So really it's these first 3 rows that make a difference, right? But let's look at the first 1 through 4. You see 11, 12, 14, 16. You come down to fighters, much worse. 14, 15, 16, 17, and 17. That's a 1d20. That's a tough roll, right? So you're going to blow your saving throw typically against, just about anything, maybe not death ray or poison. And again, in this system, poison is almost always fatal. Then we go down here to magic user, better than the fighter, not as good as the cleric. Even versus spells and things, right? The cleric, they get better as they go up, I should say, in terms of the cleric. Thief, pretty much like a magic user, right? There's some variations in here. And there you go to my guy, Mr. Dwarf, and look at those saves. Love that save. Now, I'm -1 because of my wisdom, but I start off better than anyone else in the game, except I think halfling. Let's look at elf, pretty much the equivalent of magic, a little bit better, as you go along, a little bit better. And then the halfling, we look at the dwarf and the halfling, pretty much the same. It gets better here down, and of course these go 1 to 3. Notice too, some of these 1 to 5, the magic user stays. 1 to 5th level, they stay with their beginning saves. So this is the sort of stuff you see in these old systems where it's like, well, I want to be a dwarf, right? So that's going to go across my chart, that 8, 9, 10, 13, and 12. All of the characteristics, the pluses or minus, affect things like with intelligence, how many languages you know. There is a thing in intelligence that if you have, notice this right here, this chart, 3 intelligence, you have trouble speaking, you can't read or write. 4 to 5, you can't read or write common. 6 to 8, can't read simple, okay? This is the thing about when we created optional rules to say you can't have below a 9, because you get into this kind of stuff with your character. You're failing every intelligence check, you're just an idiot. It can be sort of humorous to do this, but again, this sort of thing, the con thing especially, or if you had a 3, the intelligence thing, or the con, 3, you're -3 on every, basically if you're a magic user or thief, you have 1 hit point per level. I mean, it's just not fun. Again, if you want to do that, you want to play it. I rolled that just straight up, and I got those 7 wisdom. That's going to hurt my saves. In the old days, I would have had a 9. But, it does add a little bit of flavor. I just rolled it and said, okay. But if I'd rolled a 3 or a 5 and something, it's kind of questionable. And charisma, they have these reactions to people. If you're talking to them, clearly, if you have a low charisma, you're not going to be the face of the party, right? Also, retainers, you get a retainer morale, and it's terrible if it's low like this. Retainers is something that we tended to have NPCs that were player character style, right? We didn't necessarily have retainers, but they have rules for them. You can have them. People to stand by your pony when you go into the dungeon or something like that. And, whether they run away or not, that is something there. But basically, the charisma is going to be people's reaction to you. Then you have the alignment rules here, and in this system you have lawful, chaotic, or neutral. And it's interesting, lawful is the basically, to always tell the truth, play fair with people, whatnot. And then neutral is just, the balance between law and chaos. You'll decide. And they have these kind of things like, oh, one side's getting too powerful. I'll go to the other side, whatever their objectives, whether they're evil or good or whatever. Again, that doesn't come in. Then they have chaotic, which is the opposite. There should be some randomness. Laws are made to be broken, whatever. And they do say this is associated often with evil characters, but doesn't have to be. You could have a chaotic character that is just sort of capricious and you can't trust them, but they don't necessarily do evil things. They just do whatever pops into their head or something like that. Typically we played either lawful or neutral, but you can choose what you want. It isn't evil per se. The other thing is they have this alignment language where you have this secret, language of law, chaos, hand signals and whatnot. How much you want to play that, just to give people signals, do they react or whatever. A chaotic person, why would he necessarily respond? Either way, they might not. It's just a neutral might think, well, what are you doing? So I guess lawfuls are lawful. And one of the things they say is you can't learn the secret language. The only way you can know is to be lawful, neutral, or chaotic. This to us, and when we picked this up, seemed silly, but you may want to choose to do that. That's up to you. And one of the things here in background, it says in this thing that it should be a cooperative effort here. Much more in the older systems, at least for me, I as the GM would tell you where you were from, what your parents were like or something, or you might tell me what I'd like to be as an urchin, or I'd like to be a prince, but I'm going to tell you, well, since you're traveling with these first level adventures, you're a prince who's broken away from his family and doesn't want anything to do with them. He took just a few trinkets, which was your 3d6 times 10 gold. You didn't have anything special, so don't be asking for magic items because I was the prince, right? Or my family is the richest in the realm. Really? Well, you're the black sheep's son or daughter, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you that to make it so that it works in the camp. Now they have this experience bonuses, and you'll notice that basically with it's either minus 20% or 10%, plus or 5. The same with basically the fighter, the magic user, the thief. Then we get into the dwarf. He's standard strength, so my dwarf is going to have with a 14 strength a plus 5%. Now with the elf, you have strength and intelligence, but notice there's a variation there. This is very typical of these early systems with these charts that were not uniform. And we'll talk about these character classes and the strangeness of them. And with the halfling, either the strength or the dex, 13 to 18, you get plus 5. If they're both 13 to 18, you get a plus 10. Those requisites, those things add up when you're going for experience. So it is something very useful. All right, so now I have this fully filled out character sheet. I've got my alignment, lawful. I just decided on that level. My prime requisite, my different bonuses. You notice here I filled out my saving throws. I took it off the chart that I showed you. I also have my THACO. Very basic system. I did not include my +1 to hit here because this can differ. Let's say I just happen to have +1 missile and strength, but if you had one or the other, I always used my basic THACO, then added bonuses, whether it's +1 weapon, whether it's a circumstance thing or a strength bonus, dex bonus, whatever that is. I just like to do it that way. You may want to write those in yourself. I've got my movement rates. This is slowed down from the 120 standard because my encumbrance is 790 based on the equipment that I have here. That's 790. I just got there. If I'd gone over 801, my movement rate goes down. I don't want to go down too much here. That's not a good idea. So I took it there. But again, the light crossbow is 50 encumbrance. You might go to a longbow, which has less. Some other things you can do. I've got my skills and whatnot. I'm going to go into this, the character classes, and also obviously the combat system, how this works in another video. But what I want to do, there's how you make a character. It's not that complicated. Obviously, that's the idea behind the older systems, or not. And this one is considered one of the more complex, the Rules Cyclopedia. It's got some stuff, as I said, the encumbrance thing can be whatever. It's got some other things we'll talk about, weapon, optional weapon, feats type things. It's got skills. It's got some other things it's got a mass combat system, some other things that can complicate things. So I'm going to continue this series. I'm going to go into the magic system, the combat system, movement, talk about monsters, talk about treasure and experience, all the different things about the Rules Cyclopedia. But I wanted to get this one out first. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always looking for more. If you've played the Rules Cyclopedia, I'd love to hear your experiences with it. When I played this system years ago, nobody else, it wasn't no internet, we didn't really talk, nobody had played it, right? I bought it at a game store, played it with my friends, never thought I'd even look at it again. And then I'm hearing about all this OSR stuff, so it's been fascinating to dip back into this rule system and really think about it in terms of all the developments. So as for you guys out there, as I always say and firmly believe how important it is to keep playing D&D, whatever system it is, and tell somebody else about it.